we are all here together, and thank you so much for joining us today. As we said, UNRWA building is behind us. My name is Virag. I am not Jewish, because while we are here, it's not a Jewish matter. It is not a Jewish issue. So here is my take on what's going on at the UNRWA. The head of UNRWA, Philippe Lazzarini, acknowledged that Palestinian textbooks contain, and I quote, problematic materials. There should be the end of my speech, right? Because in any other world, in a common sense would dictate that someone says this and the next day they stop teaching from these textbooks. Unfortunately, we don't live in a normal world. It didn't happen. This information that is known for us for ages actually came out only 3 months ago in mainstream media. And anyone with the right moral compass would assume that UNRWA did something after this discovery. Sadly, this is not the case. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the United Nations was created on the ashes of the horrors of the Holocaust and the Second World War. Its goal was to sustain peace and security. So here is a rhetorical question. How can we build peace while you are teaching hatred? UNRWA was created to help the Palestinian refugees, but this is not an ordinary agency. It is the only one in the world that helps one specific group of people. There is no UN Uyghur refugee agency. There is no UN group to help the Ukrainian refugees from the Crimea. Why doesn't the UN care about any other refugee groups? But there is more to this. UNRWA is the only agency where refugee status is inheritable. So what it means that the grandchildren of a refugee is still a refugee regardless of living the dream life, for example, in America. This is not solving the problem, but this is creating even more problems, and it redirects anger towards Israel and with that towards Jews. But UNRWA is also the only refugee agency that provides school books that glorify terrorism and normalizes Jew hatred. It somewhat breaks one's hope for a better future when we trust an organization to make our world more peaceful, only to find out that they are doing the opposite behind our backs. Imagine that right now 320,000 students are learning mathematics by counting dead Jews. One dead Jew plus one dead Jew equals 2 dead Jews. How is this acceptable in 2021? And what is the domino effect of such education? How are we supposed to have a better future if 6-7 years old kids are indoctrinated with hatred? How are we supposed to create a more peaceful future if children are taught that terrorism against Jews are something to strive for? And we are talking about the UN, the largest non-governmental organization out there, whose mission was to protect us, protect our children, and protect our future. How did we allow for so many years these institutions to do the complete opposite, and instead of protecting children, abusing them? At first, we can assume that it was a glitch in the system, but for that you need to be very, very naive already. But I feel that the head of UNRWA is actually making fun of me, making fun of you, and making fun of us when he admits that the textbooks are filled with Jew hatred and yet does absolutely nothing to address it. So should I assume that it's again money talks and bullshit walks? Should I assume that UNRWA, that employs 28,000 people, which is the largest number employed by an agency under the United Nations, is actually having some kind of incentive to create a humanitarian crisis? Because let's be honest, if there would be peace, 28,000 bureaucrats would end up without a job. But it gets worse, because the countries that fund UNRWA and most of the people on the street out there assume that our money is actually channeled into UNRWA to help people, to help bring peace. Instead, UNRWA traps the next generation in a cycle of hatred and violence. So seeing this is actually making me feel cheated as a person. It makes me feel that my hopes and my dreams are shattered, because I spent days after day to try to make the world a better place, and UNRWA is working against me, working against my dreams. So we demand action here because it is not a political matter, it is a human rights matter. This is not about Israel contra Palestinian cause. This is not a partisan issue. This is not even solely a Jewish issue. Whoever tells you otherwise actually is adding to the cycle of Jew hatred. To be clear, why we are here today is the human rights issue. This is about UNRWA abusing children who were born pure, but by the time they are teenagers, they are brainwashed with hatred. Becoming a suicide bomber or a terrorist is not what a child should ever aspire to become. UNRWA denies children a better future, robs them of their innocence and opportunity, and with that, UNRWA denies a world a better future. So I demand end Jew hatred at UNRWA. And thank you very much. End Jew hatred at UNRWA.
End Jew hatred at UNRWA. Thank you, Virag.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for